Right, hello people, here we are again. We have some lovely guests today doing some straight talking. I'm Kath from Newydd Scrutiny, and I'm joined today with another scrutiny member, that's Amanda. She'll be asking questions as well as myself, and we're going to start the first question off with Una, who's going to introduce herself and tell us a little bit of what she does and her position in Newydd. Una?
Okay, well, hello everyone. It's great to be here with you today and talk about such an exciting topic, and indeed a very important one. I'm Newydd's Housing and Communities Director. I'm in charge of our customer service team, our housing team, and our community regeneration team.
Thank you, Una. Well, the first question is quite a nice one. Why is equality, diversity and inclusion important for Newydd?
Okay, well, thanks, Kath. We think it's really important to ensure and indeed demonstrate that Newydd services are fair, that they're accessible to all, that the services don't discriminate against anyone, and that our services crucially meet people's needs. We also want to ensure that Newydd is an inclusive organisation and a welcoming organisation which values and promotes equality and diversity.
Thank you, Una. Amanda.
Hi, my question is for Ross. Would you like to introduce yourself first, please?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. Diolch am y cyfle, diolch am y gwahoddiad. Thanks very much for the opportunity and the invitation to be with you today. Much appreciated. My name is Ross Thomas. I'm the Policy and Public Affairs Manager at Tai Pawb. Tai Pawb is a membership organisation of which Newydd is a good member of ours. And we focus on equality, diversity and inclusion across the housing sector in Wales.
Thanks. When you talk about protected characteristics, what does this mean?
This is actually a really good question. Protected characteristics, in a nutshell, are essentially elements of law under the Equality Act in 2010, and they offer legal protection to those who are discriminated against. So in UK law, it's illegal to discriminate against anyone based on any or all of the 9 characteristics: age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage or civil partnership, pregnancy or maternity, race, religion or belief, sex and sexual orientation. Discrimination, as many of us will know, rears its head in a variety of forms. So it can be direct, indirect, harassment, victimization and other forms. Or in the case of disability, for example, a failure to make reasonable adjustments. I'll give you one really brief example. Bob sometimes loses his balance and falls over at work because he has multiple sclerosis. People in the office regularly make comments and tease Bob because of his disability, which makes him feel really humiliated and uncomfortable. That's in the realms of harassment because of disability. So a legal case could be taken out there. So as it says on the tin, it's a legal protective mechanism.
Thank you, Ross. My question is for you as well. What is the QED award?
Thanks, Kath. Now, QED is something that gets us really excited at Tai Pawb. Essentially, QED stands for Quality in Equality and Diversity and is Tai Pawb's trademark, or quality mark as is, much like investors in people, for example. QED demonstrates a high standard has been met within the organisation so far as equality, diversity and inclusion is concerned. QED looks to normalise equality, so making it very much business as usual instead of something that must be considered as a standalone topic. And in our typical Tai Pawb way, QED and the challenge that we offer offers challenge and support in equal measure as we look at reviewing and improving equality, diversity and inclusion and the impact of the organisation. It's a really thorough process And I absolutely know that staff at Newydd will testify to that as you're working your way towards the standard at the moment. But importantly, it takes account of opinion, experience and expertise from across the organisation. That's key to QED. So that includes a real range of staff from frontline to senior leaders, as well as tenants. Very briefly, 5 housing associations in Wales currently have the QED standard, and it's live for 3 years with ongoing support throughout. And those RSLs have found significant improvements in embedding equality, diversity and inclusion in the business, as well as the feel and the culture of the organisation proven by staff surveys.
Lovely to hear. To you, Amanda.
Hi, my question is for Rachel. Would you like to introduce yourself first, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rachel. I'm the head of community regeneration. So I report to Una, and I'm in charge of the community regeneration team who deliver support services for our tenants and the wider community. And also equality and diversity sits within my portfolio.
Fab, thank you. What is the purpose of the new NEADS, NEADS group?
So NEADS stands for Newydd's Equality and Diversity Subgroup. And the group is made up of staff and tenants to discuss a variety of topics that may adversely affect tenants with one or more protected characteristics, which Ross has just mentioned. So, for example, we want to talk to our staff and our tenants about how we can have more inclusive and accessible communication. How can we tailor our services better for anyone who has protected characteristics? What about mobility, scooters and storage within general needs, and also our independent living schemes? Hate and mate crime, because we don't get a huge amount of reporting of that, but that is something that we're really conscious does happen, unfortunately, in society. It's something that we want to make sure that we're able to support our tenants with. Any new developments? So I know that's something, Amanda, you're quite keen on, is making sure that when we're looking at new developments and developing those plans, that we are taking in those protected characteristics and now looking at lifetime homes as well. So you could basically be born into that home and it could be your very last home as well. So yeah, lots of different things. And I think it's a really exciting time to actually get involved to be able to improve our services for our tenants.
Brilliant, thank you.
My question is for you, Rachel. Why is tenant profiling important? Yeah,
so it's absolutely vital that we've got tenant profiling information on our systems about our tenants. We need to know our tenants' protected characteristics so we can tailor and improve our services and ensure that we are being inclusive as an organisation. Without knowing this information, we may inadvertently adversely affect our tenants, such as not leaving long enough for a tenant to come to the door if they've got mobility issues, or if they're hard of hearing, so they may not actually hear the door. So it's vital that we have that information so we can then put in place certain things which would support tenants. So if a tenant was hard of hearing, we could potentially put a flashing doorbell within their property, so that rather than them having to listen out for the doorbell, it would be a visual cue that somebody was at their door. So without this information, we can't provide an inclusive service. So I would urge anyone who hasn't currently given us their protected characteristics information to get in touch with us or to go on My Newydd and actually add that information in themselves so that we can continue to deliver excellent services to our tenants.
Lovely, thank you, Rachel.
Una, do you think Newydd knows their tenants and understands their needs? You're on mute.
I'd like to think we do, but I think, you know, we have to recognise that we've got some information about our tenants, but probably not as much information as we would like. So Rachel's alluded to the fact that we've got a lot of profiling information on our database, but there are big gaps, unfortunately. We try and capture this information at different times of the tenancy. So for instance, when applicants come to us for housing, we get them to complete a form and we get this information from them. But sometimes tenants decline to give us that information, and obviously that's their right and we respect that. However, we are very keen to sort of plug those gaps, because if we plug those gaps, then we can improve our services and we can actually tailor our services to meet people's needs. So sometimes tenants can be a little bit concerned about that information not being kept confidential, and obviously I would stress that we do take that information, you know, very, very seriously, and we do keep that information confidential. So I'd like to reassure people on that. And obviously we ask for that information because we want to continuously improve our service. So whilst I think we do understand some of our tenants' needs, you know, it's not a complete picture. It's something that we have to constantly work on and try and improve the amount of information we have, because the more information we have, the better the service we can deliver. So again, I'd stress, you know, if tenants would like to share this information with us, do get in touch, do give our customer service team a call, or use our self-service platform like Newydd, or talk to your housing officer, and we can update our records, because it is important we keep this information up to date.
Well, my question is for you, Una. I think you've answered a bit of it. Do you think tenants find it easy to access Newydd services?
Again, I'd like to think it is easy to access our services. There are a number of ways that tenants can access our services. We've recently updated our website, for instance, with some new Recite software, which we hope is going to make it easier to navigate. There are lots of ways of contacting us to request services, either through live chats, Facebook. You can phone us, you can text us, you can contact your housing officer and request a home visit. Obviously, our staff are out and about on estates regularly, so again, they can be approached if you know, tenants require a service. We'd obviously really welcome any more suggestions from tenants in terms of you know, ways they think we can improve to provide access to our services, Kath. So if there are any suggestions, you know, we do rely on feedback from our customers to improve and look at different ways of doing things to make it easier.
Thank you, Una. That's quite a bit, really, isn't it?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Ross, what barriers do you think there are that stop disadvantaged and vulnerable tenants from accessing services and getting involved?
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, this is a top-notch question, really, and it's the key one for me in today's conversation. So there are any number of barriers that can prevent proper access or engagement. But the first one that comes to my mind is thinking that the organisation doesn't represent or reflect you. So, for example, if you're a disabled tenant or you're from an ethnically diverse background and you don't see people like you within the organisation, that can be really off-putting. It's so important the staff cohort is representative of the communities it serves. Other issues can include language and imagery. Is the wording on our posters or tweets encouraging tenants to engage with us, or is it aloof and uninspiring? Does it take account of different language barriers? Is it accessible in its format? Do the images reflect the diversity of the people that we have among our staff and tenant base? Moreover, are we trying new things? Are we reaching out in new ways? It's 2021, modern technology has taken off in the last 18 months. Are we only targeting the same people and organisations that we've always targeted? What about the parent and toddler group at the local community centre? What about the local mosque? What about the local disability forum? If we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. So as far as I'm concerned, there aren't any hard to reach people or tenants. It's us as organisations. We need to adapt and find ways of engaging with them. And it's our duty to help give a platform to those whose voices are unheard for whatever reason.
Very good, very good. Una, why is it important to include tenants in discussions about the services they receive?
Well, you know, obviously, I think hopefully Kath and Amanda, you're good examples of that in terms of being, you know, really effective scrutiny group members. But, you know, for me, tenant input is essential into service delivery. tenants are best placed to tell us, you know, what their needs are and what works and what doesn't. We can have all sorts of assumptions as staff and our own views about, you know, what we think is right, but unless we actually sit down and talk to tenants and actively listen to their feedback and ask them for their views, you know, we're not going to make much progress. So for us at Newydd, you know, we place a big emphasis on putting tenants at the heart of service delivery, and you know, actively listening to tenants and trying to take their feedback on board to design and tailor services to meet their needs and to continuously improve. If we don't listen to the tenants, you know, we've got no chance of delivering a really good or effective service.
I agree with you. Thank you, Una.
Another question for you, Una. Do you have many complaints about hate crimes and such?
To be honest, Amanda, we have, you know, comparatively few reports of hate crime and make crime, which in some ways is reassuring, but I don't think we should be lulled into a false sense of security around that, because I think the whole issue around hate crime and make crime is often underreported for various reasons. People may not feel confident in reporting it. They may not feel we take it seriously. They may feel there's no point because we can't do anything. You know, obviously, I'd really encourage people to come forward and report hate crime or make crime, because it, you know, it really does blight people's lives. It has a massively detrimental impact on people, and we want to support people. You know, we've got very good links with the police. We tend to take a multi-agency approach when incidents like this are reported to us. We also take a victim-centred approach. So we'll very much work with the tenant and talk to them about what we can do to support them and develop an action plan alongside them to make sure that we, you know, can support them, but actually try and tackle the problem. You know, we do take a zero tolerance approach to it. We've recently reviewed our hate crime policy, which we are going to discuss at our Equality and Diversity and Inclusion Conference next month. We're going to have tenant input on that policy, and we'll be training staff, and also we'll be trying to raise awareness in the community about hate crime and make crime and what we can actually do to tackle it together.
Brilliant. Love that. Rachel, this is for you. Last question for you, Rachel. How do you think Newydd could be more inclusive?
So we've worked really, really hard to be inclusive, and this is where we need tenant input to tell us how they think we could be more inclusive. So it's a bit of a plea, really, for tenants to get involved. We've got a variety of ways that tenants can contact us at the best time to suit them, through things such as My Newydd, and then during working hours via telephone, but also any time of the day via email as well. And we want to continually improve, and we've got a continually improving plan for this, as Una mentioned. It's not something that we're just going to sit back and say, oh, we've done everything that we've done. Everything that Ross said in terms of accessible services and barriers for individuals was absolutely bang on. And I completely agree with everything that he said. We need to be going out into those communities and engaging with people. But in terms of that inclusivity, again, it is just a plea for anyone that's watching this that is interested in getting involved, not necessarily just around equality and diversity, but any of our services and any of the areas that we work within. If you are interested in getting more involved and possibly joining the NEADS group, please contact Tracy James, who is our Community Regeneration Officer. You can email her on tracy.james@newydd.co.uk, or you can call her on 02920 005477. So yeah, please do.
Lovely. I hope we get some good response from that.
Yeah. This is for everyone, and it's the last question. In your view, what would be the perfect housing association service?
Who wants to go first?
Whoever.
I'll jump in. I'll take my external prerogative, not being a member of staff at Newydd.
Yeah.
So, having thought about this, I think this is a tricky one because my fundamental answer is that there isn't any such thing as perfect. If I were to think outside of the box, I would be giving a thumbs up to a service that engages regularly with its customers, is diverse in its makeup, as we've all already said through the various answers we've given, and gives a platform where people's voices can be heard, voices that can have a really positive impact on service delivery, as Una has already mentioned. If I'm thinking of a perfect housing association, it's one where I suppose good practice is recognised and built on, and that's really important. But equally, and possibly more importantly, it's a housing association that generally recognises that there will always be more to do.
Good.
I don't mind jumping in there, and then Una can have the last word as the director. For me, as Ross said, there is no perfect, and we have to continually improve. As we've seen over the last 20 months, things can drastically change, and we need to be able to be on the forefront of being able to make those changes. So with everyone having to suddenly work from home, we had to do a lot of work internally to make sure that we could continue to deliver those services to our tenants. So I think it's about always forward thinking, always making sure that we're using any things that we've done and learning lessons, and then moving forward, because I do think that we can learn as much from failure as we can from success. And I think that's really important to recognise. Having a very inclusive and accessible service to all, and that's both staff and tenants, because if you've got happy staff, hopefully you'll have happy tenants because they'll be delivering a great service to them. So that's my idea.
Brilliant.
I'm not sure what else I can add apart from to say, from my perspective, it's being able to demonstrate through evidence that we are a fair and transparent and inclusive organisation. So we don't just talk about it, we can actually prove that we are through our monitoring and the performance measures that we have in place. So we can also set targets to continuously improve. I also want us to be an organisation that has high satisfaction rates in terms of service delivery, but particularly I would like us to be able to score highly in terms of listening to our tenants, and our tenants feeling that their voice has been heard and that we do act on their views.
Yeah, good answers, very good answers. Well, we've come to the end. We'd like to say thank you very much. 3 lovely, exciting news coming forward now with Newydd. Any questions, any tenants wishes to ask, just has to get in contact with the people that have been on here today. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Amanda. Amanda got to rush off as well. She got another meeting. So look forward to seeing you in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kath, and thank you, Amanda, as well, for your time and all of your continued work.
And thank you, Ross. Thank you.